Yeah, and if you have any questions, please write it in the chat of this meeting, and we will have maybe a short Q&A right at the end, or we'll try and address your questions as we go. Yeah, thanks everyone. Joe, you can get going.
Thank you so much, Kyle. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this webinar. My name's Jo. I work here at Twinkle, and I'm the leader of the team that create the Rhino Readers Reading Scheme books. And I'm really pleased to be able to come and talk to you a little bit today about what I think is probably one of Twinkle's little hidden gems. It's a very big site with a lot going on, and I think one of the things that sometimes gets overlooked is little tiny things like Rhino Readers that it's good to know about. So it's lovely to be able to come and talk to you about it today. So hopefully this session will be useful to anyone who'd like to find out a little bit more about using a phonics-based approach to supporting early reading with your learners. So what am I going to talk about today? Well, hopefully I'll be able to introduce the reading scheme and explain the background behind it and the thinking behind its creation. I'll be able to tell you about how to get to the books and how to find them, because obviously Twinkle can be a little bit difficult to navigate sometimes, so just quick and easy ways to get to these books. I'll talk a bit about what to expect from each level and how the phonics progression that we've got in the books works, so you know what sorts of things you can expect from each level. And I'd also really like to cover how you can share the books with your learners with your Twinkle subscription, so that the right reading book goes to the right child and you're in control of what they read, and you know that they're on the right level. I'll take a little look at the resource packs that we have to go with the Rhino Readers books as well, and how you can be using those. And I also like to talk a little bit about what we currently have available for older learners who might benefit from phonics-based books, but they obviously need age-appropriate topics and themes if they're going to be engaged and enjoy reading. And I'm hoping if you've got some questions, there'll be some time for questions and obviously the feedback and option to get your certificate for this training at the end of the session. So that's our little plan for the afternoon. So what is the Rhino Readers Reading Scheme? Well, the Rhino Readers is basically decodable. Oops, I'm jumping ahead a bit quickly there. Jumping ahead, a fully decodable reading scheme that my team within Twinkle create. And when we say fully decodable, what we mean is the scheme is designed so that the children are taught the letter sounds first in the phonics lessons that we have. And then the books that they're given to read will reinforce all those letter sounds that they've been taught. Now, I'm coming to you from the UK and specifically from England. And in England, it's now a requirement for schools to use a government recognised phonics scheme and matching books to go with that scheme to ensure that the children always have books that match the learning that they've taught in class. Now, this isn't quite the case in South Africa, where I know that practitioners here, they have more choice over which schemes you use to help children learn to read. But we have noticed the Rhino Readers books have been really well taken up, both in South Africa and in other English-speaking countries. And this might be partly because when you base the books on a phonics structure, it does give you a really clear way to progress children through. And however you're learning how to read, however you're choosing to teach your learners how to read, that can be really useful. So although these books have been designed to match the UK Twinkle Phonics programme, they have been useful to lots of other countries' curriculum as well. We've been creating these books since 2020, and basically the key principles that we've adhered to, besides making sure that they're really strong with phonics and really progressive in that way, was that we wanted these books to be really fun and really engaging and get children to really enjoy reading and love learning to read. We also want them to feel that these stories are relevant to them and they're fun characters and settings that the children will relate to. So we wanted to create a range of books that have a really wide range of genres and text types, like fiction, non-fiction, poetry, play scripts, biographies too. And all this way through, diversity and representation has been super important to us, because we know that when you create a reading scheme, and especially one that has got characters that recur across the different levels, you're making a little world for children to live in, and it has to be a world that they connect and feel value in. Now, on my team, we're all teachers that write the books, and we've all taught young children to read in our careers. So we know how important it is to have these books that really motivate children, that they want to learn to read. And we are a growing scheme, and there are currently over 150 Rhino Readers books, and there are plans to get even more of them made. So we're definitely here to stay and keep going with supporting readers everywhere. So that's a little bit about who we are. Now, in terms of how you can get to the books and read them, how can you explore and find these books on the Twinkle website? Well, we do have a gateway page, and I think Wendy and Kyle are going to kindly share this with us. It's twinkle.co.uk/reading-scheme. That is, they've just shared it in the chat. This is the gateway through which you can get to the book libraries. And when you're on that gateway, when you're in that page, you'll see a choice there, and kind of just showing on the screen, there's 2 different reading schemes that we currently have available. We've got the one that's on the left, and that says EYFS to Key Stage 1, and the one that's on the right, which says Key Stage 2. Now, this is terminology that is specific to the English curriculum, because the books were originally written for the UK. And in England, when we teach, we have 3 stages for children up to the age of 11. We have the early years foundation stage, which covers you from birth until 5. And most of that is when children are in nursery or daycare. But the last year of that, they will be in primary school. It's called the reception class where we are. But then we have Key Stage 1 straight after that, and that will cover the 2nd and 3rd year of their official schooling. And at that point, our learners will be 7 years old. And the scheme on the left, the one we call our core scheme, that's been designed for children up to 7. So that's in the EYFS and Key Stage 1 over here. And I think this would roughly correspond, speaking to Wendy, to the foundation stage that you guys have in South Africa. So the one on the left is for the younger children. Now, once children here in England begin their 4th year of schooling, and they're about age 8, they move on to Key Stage 2, and that would be roughly equivalent to intermediary in South Africa. Now, we do have books for them, and I'll be talking a little bit more later, but for now, it's the left-hand side that we are interested in. And when you click through on that left-hand side button, you will go to what we call our collections page. Now, the collections page has been designed so that you can navigate between the different levels. You can tick the level that you're interested in, and the relevant sub-levels will appear. Now, I might be able to just show you a quick demo of that if I swap to sharing my screen here. I'm on that page, and I've scrolled down a little bit, and here I am on the Get Started button. Now, clicking that will take me to this collections page, and you can see how I described. You can click a certain level, and you can filter down even to a sub-level within that, because we have A, B, and C sub-levels within those levels. And then you can see lots of different books. And when you click on Read the Book, for example, let's pick this one on the bus, you can see that you've got the book there, which you can launch as an ebook, and you've also got a resource pack which you can use for the books as well. So it's super easy to navigate and super easy to get around and find the books that you need. Now, if I jump back onto my slideshow, I think I can jump forward. Yep, as I say, you can click on the book cover, you can launch a book. They come with a downloadable resource pack in that way. And when you're reading it, you can also use the controls at either side to move through the book. Many books come with audio as well, and there's also the option to have a full screen. Now, this is one of our very early books. This one's called Tap, Pat, Nap. So you can see that the language in here is quite straightforward and simple, but obviously we do go up to levels that are higher than this, and I'll be able to talk through the differences between the different levels in a minute. So that's one way that you can access the books. You can get to them through your Twinkle website with twinkle.co.uk/reading scheme. Now, there's another way to access the books, and this is a really handy way to know about if you don't always have internet access to read the ebooks on site, and you want a way to download the ebooks to a device so that you can read them offline as well. Now, this is our mobile app, and it's called the Twinkle Rhino Readers mobile app. It works on Apple and Android devices, and you can download the app for free from the App Store or from Google Play, whichever is your device's settings. And then you can use your Twinkle subscription credentials to log on and access the app. Now, if you're a Twinkle subscriber, you can just click that sign in button on the right when you've put your Twinkle credentials in there, and you'll be able to unlock the app and all the books will be there for you to read. If you're not a Twinkle subscriber right now, then you can still subscribe to the app. You do that through setting up an in-app sub, and that's by subscribing on the left, and then you will be asked to make that set up that subscription through your device as you would with any other in-app subscription through the Google Play or the Apple Store. So you can do it in two different ways, depending on whether or not you want the whole Twinkle subscription, you've got the access to the whole Twinkle, or whether you just want access to the Rhino Readers app itself. So we've got this mobile app that you can also access the books on. Now there's nice little bits of functionality with the Rhino Readers mobile app, because not only can you access the books offline, but you can do things like set up multiple profiles on your device so that you can have more than one learner coming over and reading the books, and each of those devices you can choose which books the child can access, and that's great. So if you're lucky enough to have a device that you can share in your setting, the classroom, you could set up all your learners on that device and they could come and access the books that you wanted them to learn and read. You've got features like pop-up phonic sounds. This is on the right. There's a little sound bank there, so that if children are struggling to remember the sounds that they need to read the books, you can click a button to get those phonic sounds to pop up and you can hear what they're meant to sound like. And each book has got some mini games as well. So once they've finished reading the book, they can do things like caption to picture matching or sequence to story, and that will really help support the learning and get them talking about what they've just read. And of course, you can download the books and read them offline if you don't have internet connectivity. So it's really handy to take around with you. The only thing that the app doesn't currently let you do is remotely allocate the books to children. So that's when the situation comes where you want to set some books for the children to log on at home and read. But there is a way to do that, which I'll be able to talk through in just a few minutes. So that's a roundup of what you can do with the mobile app. So those are the two main ways you can access the books, through the website or via the mobile app. So I'm going to talk a little bit now about what the content of the books is like and what an outline of each level focuses on, so you can see which levels might be useful to you thinking about where your learners are at in their reading. So there are 6 levels of Rhino Readers books currently, and they start right at the beginning, where we design the books for the adults to read to the children. And then we go all the way through levels 2 to 6. And at the point where you finish level 6, children will be really independently reading and at a level which is fluent enough for them to be able to go on and tackle lots of books from the wider world of children's literature. So the child-read books start at level 2, and they focus on the single letter sounds and CVC words. So those are those simple 3-letter words which children begin with their learning. In level 3, we introduce the first set of consonant and vowel digraphs, where 2 letters or 3 letters go together to make one sound. And in level 4, we introduce some longer words with adjacent consonants, so the children have to do more blending. And then level 5, which is quite a long level for us, it lasts a whole year in our curriculum, and that teaches children alternative spellings for those vowel sounds, so that when they see these different spellings, they know which sounds to make. Finally, level 6 has that last set of alternative spellings, and there's quite a lot more challenge in the levels of the sentences and how the books are put together at level 6. So that's a bit of a broad overview, but I can take you through the different levels now so you can see more about what to expect for each one. So here we've got level 1 Rhino Readers books. Now, the level 1 books are a little bit different from the others because these focus on different aspects of phonological awareness. Now, there are 7 key aspects of phonological awareness that we look at in level 1. They're all the really crucial building blocks for children so that they can discriminate and blend sounds together into words later. And the kinds of things that we're looking at in these books are environmental sounds, so the sounds around them, describing the differences between them, talking about whether they're loud or quiet and the differences. Instrumental sounds, so those are the sounds that instruments make. Body percussion and following patterns that you can hear with your body, with musical from your body. Rhythm and rhyme, so rhyming words and the way that some books use rhythm to communicate that meaning. Alliteration, when you've got same sounds at the beginnings of words. We've got voice sounds so that the children use their voices to copy the different kinds of sounds they hear in the books. And finally, and really crucially, we've got oral blending and segmenting, and that's where children hear sounds and put them together into words without necessarily linking them to written letters, just doing it orally, but it's a really key way for children to practice that important skill. Now, at the moment, we've got 20 of these books, and eventually there's going to be 36. They cover a really good range of topics for this age group. So we've got people who helped us, we've got some traditional tales, and we've got books which are focusing on an all about me kind of topic. So my home and my house and that kind of thing. And one thing that's really special about these ebooks is that they've got sounds worked in throughout the read, and that helps children listen to, talk about, and discriminate all those different sounds and link them to the story. And there's a little pop-up bar you can see in that picture on the left. When you read the books online, the pop-up bar jumps up and you can click those buttons to investigate the different sounds for each book. And this is a story we've written of Jack and the Beanstalk, a real old traditional tale, but it's got a range of different instruments to support the story. So I'm hoping that I can actually play this for you. Bear with me while I see if I can get this playing. I'm hoping this works. A little bit quiet, but you can probably just about hear there are some musical instruments there that when you click the buttons you can actually hear them, and the children are going to be linking those sounds to the different animals, and lots of opportunities to talk about why those sounds have been linked to that animal in there. So it's a traditional story, it's a great story that children love, but it's also helping them with that really important sound discrimination. So that's a little bit of a roundup of the level 1 books. Oh, level 2. So the level 2 books that we've got are the ones where children start reading themselves. We hand the reading over to the children at that stage. And it's really, as I said, it's very much about gaining confidence with blending CVC words. We include all the sounds that we will use in the book at the beginning of the book. We call this our before reading page. It's a really good way for children to rehearse the letter sounds before they start the book itself. And it's also a really good way to see at a glance whether or not this book is going to be okay for your learner and whether it supports your current teaching and covers the sounds you need it to. So this book's called Cats and Big Cats, and you can see the sounds, the letter sounds that we're going to be looking at there. And then you can see the kinds of sentences that we have. A cat can nap, a big cat can nap. And we've got photography in there for the children to enjoy and talk about too. Now, our level 2 books come in a variety of fiction and non-fiction, and there are lots of photos in the non-fiction ones, and you can see those simple sentences. One really great thing is that they've also got downloadable, printable resource packs alongside the book. I'm going to pop this one in the chat for you to have a look at, actually. Will it go? Should be able to drop it in case you wanted to have a quick look. This is the one that goes alongside Cats and Big Cats, but we've got one for each of the level 2 Rhino Readers books. So that's the kinds of things that you'll see in level 2. Now, level 3, things are stepping up a little bit here. We're building on level 2, so still making sure that children get the practice of all the letter sounds they've already looked at, but we're going to introduce the first set of vowel and consonant digraphs that you can see there. So we've got letter sounds like sh and then the vowel ones like A and E, and you'll see that there are examples worked into the text. Now, in the books, we also include what we call tricky words, and these are pinked for the children to recognise. These are high frequency words that children really need to be able to read at a glance if they're going to be able to access the sentences in the books. But these words don't have easy phonics that has been taught, so we call these the tricky words, and we pink them so children know they need to take extra care when they get to those words. Those words are also practiced on the before reading page, so children get the chance to have a look at them before they meet them in the book. Now, I've also shown you here on the right-hand side our after reading page for one of our level 3 books. I think this is called Zot and the Rocket. We've designed the after reading page as a series of questions for the adult to read to the child, and that's hopefully going to help children with their understanding of the book, and it also helps you as the teacher to gauge that understanding and see whether or not they've really comprehended what they read. Another thing we're really proud of in the book is the Rhino challenges that we have, and those in the little box on the right. There's some ideas in there for linked artwork, discussion, drama, craft, investigation, lots and lots of topics if you look at the whole series, hopefully something for everyone. And the point of that is really to help children enjoy what they read, remember what they read, make it meaningful, and help them make links between texts and their own experiences too. So it's a bit of enrichment that we've added in the very last page there. So that's a little bit about level 3. Moving on to level 4, the big thing about level 4, it doesn't include any new letter sounds at level 4, but it does include new tricky words. There's a few new tricky words, and the sort of step up in terms of the sentence length is there too. It also builds up confidence in blending by introducing words with lots of adjacent consonants in. For example, you've got long with the short vowel sound O, but then you've also got words which, like braids, have a vowel digraph and trigraph as well. And as you move through level 4, you'll become used to seeing lots more of those, and the children gain confidence at blending longer words. This book's called All Sorts of Hair, and we've got a little subset of books called All Sorts of, there's lots of things, all sorts of fish, all sorts of dogs, all sorts of diggers. They're really nice stripped back design with lots of key photos, helping the children to really understand what we're talking about, and also really engaging because of the lots of colours that you've got there. So this is a little mini non-fiction range that we have within the Rhino Readers, the All Sorts here. So that's what sort of things you're expecting level 4. And as I say, there will still be comprehension packs as you move through for you to download and use with your children. Now, level 5, as I said, this is quite a meaty level in our curriculum. Children will usually be in this level for a whole year, and that's because there's a lot of alternative spellings for those vowel sounds to cover. We split all of the levels into A, B, C, but you can see here that there's quite a bit to cover between 5A and 5B and 5C in those different little sections there. We've got lots of different ways of spelling the same sound. For example, A can be spelled with AY, or you can have a split digraph where the A and the E are separated by a letter, or just the letter A itself. So there's lots of different ways of spelling those key vowel sounds there. Oh, well, another thing about level 5 is that you've got a much wider range of book types now. The non-fiction books can have content and index pages because those words are now decodable for the children to read. Again, the front page of the book will show you all of the grapheme phoneme correspondences, those letter sound pictures that we use in the book. Give the children a chance to apply them by blending them into words. You've got the tricky words there at the bottom, and you'll see longer sentences and more text on the page, so the children get lots of opportunities to practice tracking down the page, as well as all the phonics content. We've also got a wider range of punctuation, tensing and sentence types when you get to level 5, just because the learners are getting that bit more confident and able to cope with those sorts of longer bits of grammar. And the last level that we offer currently is level 6, and it focuses on that very last set of alternative spellings. We also make a big thing about word endings, prefixes and suffixes at this level, and that will help children to access more complicated sentences. It's also really good that we can include a much bigger range of genres here. We've got a play script at this level, we've got some quiz books, and we've got a how-to book where you can make a paper rocket. And you can see this little guy on the front of the book here called A Rubbish Day at the Beach is one of our recurring characters. He's called Kit, and we have a little phonics family in the Rhino Readers phonics scheme with Kit and Sam. I know there's a different family in the South African Twinkle phonics, and that's really great that we've got these recurring characters. I think it's really useful for children to be able to bond with them and see them coming back from book to book. So it's a really useful device to have. So that's a little bit of a roundup of all of the content of the Rhino Readers. So the next thing I'll move on to talk about is how you could share these books with your learners. I mentioned before, there was a way in which you could share the books with learners so that they can go and access the books you choose for them to read on their own devices at home, and you're in control of what they read, but they can go away and read it where they choose. So it's possible to assign the books with our book allocation tool. It's called My Rhino Readers Library, and you get this as part of your Twinkle subscription. So if you are a Twinkle subscriber, you've got access to the My Rhino Readers Library, and this tool for allocating books to children comes as part of your subscription. The first thing you'd need to do is to get this going is to set up your learners with learner logins. Now, this is probably something we could run a whole nother Teach Meet on, because there's so much that you can do in Twinkle with learner logins when you have them set up. But just in a nutshell, there's a little process you need to do to set up your learner logins. When you go onto the Twinkle website, and I might be able to show you again here where I am, if I just quickly share, go back to this screen. Oh, at the top of the website, when you see that you have your name here and you know you're logged into the website, you've got various bits and bobs that you can access here. And in the My Resources section, oh, it's going to make me sign it again. Okay, so in the My Resources section, you can see that there's lots and lots of bits and bobs over here, which are useful tools for you to know about so that you can customize your Twinkle the way you like it. And one of them here is called Manage Learner Logins. And this is how you can actually get your learners set up with learner logins so that they can access things like the Rhino readers at home. If I click on Manage Learner Logins and then Manage Learner Logins here. Now, you can see this. These are all my learner logins. These are my students that I have set up here. You can add new students by checking the Add Learner box, and there are a few fields that you can fill in, so you can add your students one at a time. If you've got a list of students and you want to add multiple learners, there is a way to do that. There's a file here you can download. It comes along in Excel, and you can add your learners and you can upload it again, so you can do it kind of with a bunch like that. And once your learners are up and running, what I'm going to do is just quickly jump back here to my slideshow. Once you've got your learner logins up and running, you then need to jump back into the My Resources area. And in this time, instead of choosing Manage Learner Logins, you're going to choose the My Rhino Readers Admin. So this is going to open up all of the library of the books, and you're going to be able to pick which books you would like each learner to see. So I'm going to show you this really quickly. So back in going to My Resources. And then this time, instead of Manage Learner Logins, just underneath where it says My Rhino Readers Admin, if I click on this, jump through to there, now you can see that I've got all of my learners that I showed you before are all here. The different levels of books that we offer are across the top, and you can make a choice about who gets which book. So you can allocate this learner can have all of the books, or you could say, for example, I don't want any of my learners to have access to this book yet, so I'm going to take it off. I just want to have one or two people having access to this book. So it's really up to you what you want your learners to see. And this is the allocation tool that you can use to make sure that your learners just see the level of book you want them to. So that's a really handy thing to know about. That's really good for actually getting the right book to the right child. So if I just jump back to our slideshow and jump forward here. So that's the adult sort of side of it. Now, if you're a child and you want to log on and see what you've been allocated, the thing for the children to do is to go to our learner login website, and that is at twinkle.co.uk/learn. And when they do that, they'll have to pop in the details that you've made for them as learners. That can be downloaded from the learner logins place. And when they open when they log in and get through, they'll have a dashboard. And on that dashboard, there's a little Rhino icon there. And that Rhino icon is going to be where they can see the books that you've assigned them. And any book that you've picked in that admin center is going to be waiting for them in their My Rhino Readers library. And this works on desktops or devices. And the books are read on a browser, so there's nothing that children need to download or install. It's just straight, any browser can access that website there. And the really good thing about it is, and the reason why we could talk about this all night, is you can allocate so much more than just the Rhino readers once you have learner login set up. There are all sorts of apps and learning tools that Twinkle has that are allocatable with these learner logins. It's fantastic. Oh, yep, the link for the learner login, no problem. That one I can share is you have to be logged in already in your resources, but the learner logins is Manage Learners. Here, I can pop that one in the chat for you just now. And then if you want to set up the My Rhino Readers logins, then that's the website, that's the link which is going to take you to that login area. So it's a really handy tool, and it all works as part of your Twinkle subscription. So obviously there's no charge to any parents or carers for that service. It's all coming via you. It's part of your subscription to Twinkle. Okay, so let's jump on a little bit more. So I'm going to move on to talk a little bit about the resource packs that we've created to go with the Rhino Readers books. I think this is something that makes our scheme really strong. It means that you can really reinforce the learning with the children and also run them as reading carousels in your classrooms. So what do we give you in a typical Rhino Readers pack? Well, first of all, I'd say that the book packs are currently available from levels 2 to 5. We're working really hard to get them up there for level 6 as well. So that's well on the way. Hopefully in the new year, we'll be able to get all of our books with a pack. And each one will have a teacher guide so that you know your way through the book if you're working with a group. It's got lots of ideas for suggestions for questions throughout, which topic and vocabulary it might be good to talk about, comprehension at the end. It's also got links to exactly which phonics the book covers. So the teacher guide's really handy if you're going to be reading the book with a group. There's also a phonics read activity, and this will focus on children's understanding of the letter sounds that they've been taught and getting them to read into words. Another opportunity for them to read all of those letters. We have a spelling activity, and that's where they'll be asked to, with those letter sounds that they've been working on, they'll have to put them in words in a context that's relevant to the book. We've also got a kind of a grammar and tricky word focus activity too, because those are really tricky parts. So good to get those reinforced as a tricky word activity. And a comprehension activity, which will have questions about the book that they've been reading. And finally, we've always got a nice little bookmark that you can use with the children, and that bookmark has got all of the letter sounds and tricky words that they'll need to use in the book. So if they're halfway through the book and they're not sure what, if they've got to a sound and they're not sure what it is, then the bookmark can be really handy. And you can download these and print them out to use with your learners if you're working on a Rhino Readers book. So how do people tend to use the packs? Well, they're quite flexible. So there's lots of different ways you could use them. You might choose to print and use specific activities, like maybe a spelling activity or a comprehension activity with an individual student that you've got a few concerns about, so that they can be boosted up and keep up with the class and make sure that they're continued on to be strong. You might have a carousel that's set up for reading, and that's when you're reading with a different group of students every day. But on the days that they don't read with you, they need some different activities to be working on. They can be working on activities that relate directly to the book they're reading. So you can have them set up like that. And you could also use them, you might choose to use them with larger groups or send them home to your whole class if there's a particular skill that everyone can benefit from recapping. So there's quite a few ways you can use the resource packs, and schools have been really flexible and shown us that they've been quite useful to have as a resource, and they've always been very popular. The teacher guide's definitely useful if there's many different adults listening to readers, because then that supports your adults with what to focus on and ensures you've got that consistency of approach between all of the readers and all the groups. So yeah, there's lots of different ways you can use the packs, but a few ideas for you there. Now, I did want to touch a little bit on what we've got in the pipeline for older learners. As when we first brought out the Rhino Readers in the UK, one of the first questions that we were asked was, can you make books with the same phonics structure and progression, but can you make them for older learners? Because if they're finding the journey to reading a bit more difficult, the last thing we want to do is to give them books that they feel like a bit babyish, or maybe not quite in tune with the topics and themes that they're interested in. So can you make anything for older learners? And yeah, we did take that to heart, and we definitely wanted to. So we have got a range of very new books called the Decoders. This is the other reading scheme that you have the option to choose back on the landing page. And I said go to the left, but this is the one on the right. And these books match a phonics intervention program that Twinkle Phonics has, which is also called the Decoders. So the phonics program covers all of the letter sounds and blending and so on, but our books provide the opportunities to practice and reinforce them. And it does the same thing as the main phonics scheme does, but we've condensed it into a year because catch-up's really important and accelerated progress is super important if you've got children who are behind. Now, the difference with these books is that they're written and illustrated for older learners with an age-appropriate feel to the topics and themes. We've also kept dyslexia and visual difficulties very much in mind when designing these books. They're all got a tinted cream page, so you don't have that glaring black and white, which has been shown to be really unhelpful for people with dyslexia. There's also very careful line spacing and space around text to make sure that it's as accessible as possible. As well as that, each book's available in 2 different fonts. We've got our Twinkle font, which has got no serif, so it is accessible and useful and the choice of a lot of people. But we've also got our Open Dyslexia font, which has got it's sort of more of a stroke on the bottom of the letters, and that's been proven to help some people with dyslexia and visual difficulties. So you've got that choice of 2 different fonts for each book. But in terms of the clear focus on phonics, the progression being really linked to that phonics, and the diverse and inclusive nature of the books, then we've kept exactly the same principles with the decoders. Now, currently we have 14 of these books, but the plan is to create 36 eventually, and they will go from levels 2 to 6. So there is a little space that you can watch if you're interested in finding out when we've got more of these decoders books. I'm going to pop one more link in the chat here. This is the link to where we keep our Key Stage 2 or older learners decoders books, and you can see all of the new ones that we've got there, and we will definitely give you a shout when they're all ready, because I think these are going to be a really, really useful resource for anyone working with older children who are still finding reading quite tricky and would benefit from that clear phonics progression. So a little bit about our books for older learners there. Now, this brings me, I think, to a point where you've probably heard enough of me talking. You'd probably benefit from any questions that you might have about the Rhino Reader scheme. It's been absolutely lovely to come and talk to you today, but I'm more than happy for you to shout out any questions, pop them in the chat or unmute yourselves and shout them out. Any questions that you have for me about the Rhino Readers, I'm more than happy to answer. Oh, what's a good question? I currently don't have any Afrikaans speakers on my team, so I don't think it's something that I'd be able to offer in the UK currently, but that might be a question for Wendy and her team in South Africa about whether or not an Afrikaans reading scheme might be on the cards.
I don't think we'll be able to do anything to the Rhino Readers level, but there are already tons of Afrikaans books available on the SA's Twinkle sites. So there's stacks and stacks of Afrikaans readers there, but obviously not on a nice fancy app like the Rhino Readers is, unfortunately. Unfortunately, that's made by the UK English team, and unfortunately, Afrikaans is only made by the South African team. I love the current Afrikaans that you have available. Yeah, they are great. We've got a whole Afrikaans team that work on making new books and translating current English ones into Afrikaans. So yeah.
I think there was a question about the learner logins.
For the learner login, do this from Talia? Yeah, I'm sorry if I get your name wrong. For the learner login, do I, as the teacher, create the profile platform for my learners to access?
Yes, that's right, Natalia. Yes, that's right, you do. So what I might do, I might just go back to the learner logins. I've got a bit of time. See if I can share you again. So there we go. So I'm going to jump into manage learner logins here. Now, the first time you do this, there wouldn't be any names here. You would need to set up your learners. So you would do that using these buttons here, adding either a single learner or a multiple learner. And then if you want to print out the credentials that your learner will need to go away and log in, I've noted if you tick this, then you can actually download the learner labels here. Now it's creating the label. It's actually downloaded it to my machine here. So I'm not sure, I might be able to, oh, yep, I can share it with you actually. So you can see here that there is now a little leaflet that you could cut out and share with your learners and their parents and carers, and it will have the username and their password on there. So what they would then need to do with that, if I just jump back over here, I'm going to change this website. I'm going to show you the learner facing part of it. So here is the learner logins. This is what the children see when they log in. And you would need to pop in, I'm going to pop in one of my learner logins. They would need to add in the credentials that are on that piece of paper, and they would sign in. And then they get to their learner dashboard, which looks like this. I mean, you can see here, I've been talking about my Rhino Readers Library, but there is quite a lot of other things that you can get children set up with and learning on their learner dashboard. But when they click through to the My Rhino Readers Library, all of the books that they can see that you've allocated them will appear here. If I click on one here, this one's called Little Mouse, Big House, and we'll click Let's Go, and they can start reading here. This is a level 1 book. So you get the sounds here of the building site. There he is, banging his hammer and sawing away. Super loud. I didn't realise it was going to be that loud. But essentially, yes, that's what you do. You set it up as the teacher, and then the children will log on with the credentials that that you give them, and then they can see what you've assigned them when they log in at twinkle.co.uk/learn. Oh, I think there's another couple of questions that have popped in here. Are the Go games translatable to a different language? I don't believe that they are. I don't believe that currently you can get them translated into different language, but new ones are always going up on site, as I understand it.
So hey, the team is constantly making new games for the different languages. So isiZulu, Afrikaans, all those sort of things, and they're translating the games that are on the Twinkle site to those languages from English or from a different language. So there are lots of games there, but they're different from the Go games that are on the app. They're separate. So there are, if you're looking for games, there are tons that are already made and are constantly being made for the site. So you just need to keep an eye out.
I think we've got a question here. If the school would like to purchase the entire program, whom do they contact? Well, all that I've shown you today, the ebooks, is all part of your Twinkle subscription. So if your school have signed up as a Twinkle subscribing school, then you've got it already. I don't think there's anything else that you would need to purchase to access the ebooks or allocate them. I think we've got lots of questions here. I don't want to make sure I don't want to miss anybody out. Where do we get the link to join and add the kids? So that was in the, I'll just reshare that, but bear with me while I just find my, it's in my resources, here it is. So I'm just going to pop it in the chat. That one at the bottom there, manage learners. That's how you get going with your learner logins. And there's also a really, really great guide on site, which I'm just going to look up for you quickly now, called the Visual Learner Login Guide. So if you've not set up your learner logins, which is quite good to know how to do, I can drop this in the chat as well. I will just quickly grab it. Here it is.
Okay, so in the chat, you'll see that there's a message from me for the feedback form. Fill that in. Let us know what you thought of today's workshop. And then Wendy also posted a link for a free trial membership if you don't already have a Twinkle account. So there should be, I think it's a month. I could be wrong. Wendy, I don't know if you want to say how long the trial's for. I believe it's a month at most.
It's a month. It's a month free trial.
Okay. There you go. 1 month free trial for if you don't have an existing account already. Just as a thank you for coming, spending your time with us. Yes, and
Thanks,
like Wendy
Tim.
says, the feedback form will give you a certificate for attending.
Kyle, have you got all the questions from the chat? I'm just double checking. I think we have, but is there
Yeah,
any
yeah, we
last
have.
questions before we close for the day?
No, that's everything. Can I get a show with emojis in the chats or with the reactions at the bottom if you would join another workshop that we hold with Joanna or anybody? Perfect. Okay. I'm going to post the feedback form one more time. Everybody can go and fill it out, get your certificate. You should get it within a few minutes, email to you if you fill it out correctly. And yeah, thank you for coming, spending your time with us. We appreciate you. Go and enjoy your evenings. Go spend time with your families. Go eat dinner. Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate you.
Is there one more question from Loretta? Did you have your hand up?
No, I think she was just showing appreciation.
Okay. Well, thank you all so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure talking about the scheme with you. Enjoy the rest of your evening and thank you again for coming.
Joanna.